What is going on, everybody? It's Mr. Scott, your favorite middle-aged metalhead, and here today on the channel, I'm presenting to you a top 10 list. What kind of top 10 is it? Top 10, quote-unquote, terrible songs on great albums. Let's hit it. Welcome to It's Mr. Scott here on YouTube. I, of course, am Mr. Scott. And here today, as I said, top 10, quote-unquote, terrible songs on really great albums. And I'm kind of riffing off what my good friend ThrashManiac99 did on his channel. I, of course, do the Shadow Cult podcast with ThrashManiac99 every Saturday live on YouTube. Link, of course, is in the description of this video. And he got it from a friend of his who did a YouTube video with the same subject matter. And I remember watching his, I thought, you know what, this could be some fun stuff. I think I might want to give this a try. It's quote-unquote terrible songs because this is subjective, okay? It's based on your own experience. Chances are there's going to be at least one song in this list that you, if you're a metal fan, know and you're going to be mad at me about. I just have to understand that and accept it. It is what it is. So, with that, let's get to this 10 quote-unquote terrible songs on great albums. Right now, I want to send a big shout out to all my top tier patrons at patreon.com/itsmrscott, Arkham Gaming 01, Church Keys, Donald Fuller, and Run DMC Evercoop. Thank you all so much for your continued support. The first album I'm going to bring up is from one of my all-time favorite bands, as if you couldn't tell, and that is Motorhead with their 1991 release, 1916. I love this album. This album was actually nominated for Best Metal Grammy. It's got great songs on there. No Voices in the Sky, Going to Brazil, Angel City, Love Me Forever, a ballad from the band. Who knew that was ever going to happen? Just overall great album, but if there's one song on here that just doesn't belong, it's a song called Make My Day. It's a filler track. There's nothing special about this song. None of the lyrics are particularly groundbreaking or exciting. The music is just kind of there. So Make My Day off the 1960 album, in my opinion, bad song, doesn't need to be there. The next one on my list, incidentally, this is not a 10-to-1 scenario. I'm just throwing 10 examples out to you, so I'm not ranking these. I'm just throwing them all out to you. So the next one on the list comes from Van Halen and their album 1984. Now, being a child of the 80s and being around when MTV first started and actually played music videos, what a concept that was, I remember hearing a lot about this album because of videos for songs like Jump, Panama, Hot for Teacher getting constant rotation airplay on MTV. And my sister had this album. I remember listening to it. And there's other great songs on the album too, like I'll Wait, Drop Dead Legs, and other songs too. But if there's one song on this album that I think is just bad, it's a song called Top Jimmy. For me, this song, nothing stands out with it. There's this like cool harmonic tapping opening that happens that Eddie Van Halen does, and there's some interludes too of the same technique. But it's nothing groundbreaking. He kind of has done this already in much more spectacular fashion. A song like Mean Street comes to mind from an earlier album. So it's just kind of there. The lyrics kind of fly by, and just overall, it kind of has a bland vibe to it. It doesn't need to be on the album. Top Jimmy from 1984, you're gone. The next song on my list comes from the first of the four, the big four in the world of thrash metal. Yes, I've got an album from each one of the big four on my list. And we're starting off with Slayer and their album Seasons in the Abyss. I love this album from the band. It is a great album. But if there's one song on here that I think is bad, it's this nothing track called Blood Red. Blood Red, it's the shortest track on the album. It's under 3 minutes long, and it feels like they just had some leftover lyrics and riffs that they just had kind of sitting around. They pulled them together and said, hey, let's just bang this out real quick and be done with it. So it's nothing. It doesn't matter about, it doesn't make any difference on this album. There's classics on the album like War Ensemble, Dead Skin Mask, the title track, Seasons in the Abyss, and so forth. But Blood Red, it's under 3 minutes that they didn't need to put into this song. They could have put that in some other songs, I think. Blood Red from Seasons in the Abyss, bad. Next up, we're going to talk about another one of my favorite bands, and that, of course, is King Diamond. If you know me, you know I'm a huge fan of King Diamond. But that doesn't mean King is perfect, okay? And all the way back on his very first solo album from 1986 called Fatal Portrait is a small track called Voices from the Past. It's an instrumental, first of all, and it's only about 90 seconds long, but it really serves no purpose that I can see for the overall feel of the album. It doesn't really add anything to it. Like I said, it's instrumental. There's no lyrics involved, so there's no story to be told. Maybe it was like some kind of experimentation they were trying to do in the studio at the time, and it made sense to do it then. But now looking back, Voices from the Past, it's 90 seconds of nothing. It doesn't need to be on the album, so that song can go. Next up, we're going to go to one of the progenitors in the world of black metal, Venom. And, of course, love Venom, love their early stuff. And their album, Black Metal, is, of course, a black metal classic. It is a huge, influential song in the world of metal. But there is a song on here that I'm not too big of a fan of, and it's called To Hell and Back. For me, Cronus, the lead vocalist, he kind of just drones the lyrics in this song. The chorus is boring and unremarkable, and the music is bland. You know, it's just overall, it's like kind of there. That's going to be kind of like a underlying theme with a lot of these songs I'm talking about on my list. Whether you consider them terrible or bad or whatever, overall they're bland, they're pointless, there's nothing to them, and there's no reason to really have them on there. So I guess in that case, that means they're bad. And for me, for black metal album To Hell and Back, it's bad. Next up, I talked about King Diamond. Now we're going to talk about his other known band, Merciful Fate, and their album Into the Unknown. Into the Unknown, I think, is a highly underrated album in the discography of Merciful Fate. Love this album. There's so many great tracks on it. 15 Men on a Dead Man's Chest, The Uninvited Guest. It's so much good stuff on this album. However, there's one song on it that I'm not a fan of, and that's called Holy Water. Typical filler track. The lyrics are nothing special to it. Even the vocals are nothing like exciting to listen to. It's kind of like they're just thrown in there. Same with the music. Nothing stands out for it. Doesn't really have great personality. Because songs, you know, when they're on albums, you want them to have something that grabs you, that makes you want to listen to them. And Holy Water, whenever it comes up on the rotation, I kind of skip over it. So that song off Into the Unknown, I think, can go. Next up, we're heading down to Antarctica and those intergalactic barbarians, Gwar. And for a lot of us old school Gwar fans, we adore the album Scum Dogs of the Universe. And for many of us, we consider this the very first legitimate Gwar album. Yes, they put out an album previous to this in 1988, I believe, called Hello, which was okay, but the bad production on that album makes it feel more like an EP or a demo. This album, Scum Dogs of the Universe, from Metal Blade Records, feels like their very first legit studio release. And even though there are great songs on this album too, Horror of Yig, Maggots, Sick of You, the classic right there, there's one song on this one called Death Pod. And this song just misses for me. There's a lot of hits on this album, but this is a big miss. I guess it was supposed to, at the time, add to kind of the mythology or the mythos of Gwar as they're trying to create this larger-than-life entity with the band. Not just, you know, it's a bunch of people from Virginia. They're trying to make this huge impact as this overall entity that should be, you know, revered and feared at the same time. This song, I don't think, adds to it. I don't think it does anything for the album. It just, Death Pod comes from the sky. The music is, again, bland, doesn't do anything special. And it's not really necessarily well put together or arranged, too. So that kind of adds to the fact where I think on this classic album, it's a bad song. Next up, we've got our second band from the Big Four in the world of thrash metal, and that band is Megadeth. And we're talking about the album Euthanasia. And even though I love this album too, many great tracks, Addicted to Chaos, Train of Consequences, even the last track, Victory, is a fun listening song. There's one song on here I've really never gotten into, and it's called Black Curtains. For me, Dave is struggling to do the lyrics in this song. Even the riffs are generally boring. There's nothing that stands out with them. The chorus is so simplistic. It's just black curtains never ending and just various connotations of those words. And right in the middle in the bridge section is this weird psychological rant that Dave does, but it's so low in the mix and it's badly produced that it's kind of hard to make out everything he says without trying to read the liner notes and figure out what it is. So for me, this song doesn't do anything for the rest of the album, Black Curtains, bad. So now we're going to go to the third band in the Big Four of thrash metal, and that is Anthrax and their album Sound of White Noise. Now this is infamous in the world of metal because this was the first album the band did with a new vocalist, John Bush. Prior to this, of course, Joey Belladonna, one of the greatest vocalists in metal, had left the band, was fired, however you want to put it. They brought John Bush in from Armored Saint, and John added a whole new depth to the band, I think, and this was a great first outing to introduce John as their new frontman. But one song on this album I cannot stand, and it's a song called High Pro Glow. I've tried to like this song, I really have, but the more I've listened to it, it's just monotonous. It's annoying. The opening rhythm, dun 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 dun, that will be an earworm in your head all day, and that's not a good thing. Matter of fact, when I was putting this list together, I thought about that song, and instantly it started playing in my head, and I'm like, stop, I don't want to listen to this song right now. Yeah, it does nothing for me. But the way John sings it is kind of tiresome. And like I said, it's annoying. It just is not a good track overall. High Pro Glow, bad. I've come to the last song on my list. I talked about 3 of the big 4, Slayer, Anthrax, and Megadeth. That means I have one band left to talk about, and it's Metallica. And if I haven't pissed you off by now, old school metal fan, I'm probably going to piss you off with this one, because this is not a song from the mid-90s era like Load or Reload, or even the 2000, late 99, 2000 era like Saint Anger. No, I'm going all the way back to the beginning with Kill 'Em All, because there is one song on this album which is a bona fide speed metal, thrash metal classic. You can't be a metal fan without knowing this album front to back, backwards and forwards, upside down, downside up, whatever. There's one song I've tried so hard in my life to even have an inkling of enjoying, but I just can't. And it's called Jump in the Fire. Relax. Let me explain. Jump in the Fire is bad, okay? It's just a bad track. On this album, as I stated, is one of the foundations, the building blocks of the metal scene that we would see grow in the 80s and into the 90s, with songs like The Four Horsemen, Seek and Destroy, Metal Militia, No Remorse. You've got Jump in the Fire. It's a bouncy, poppy, almost radio-friendly sounding song. It doesn't fit. You know that old thing, one of these things is not like the other? That's this song on this album. Jump in the Fire does not fit. I believe it was on their demo, No Life to Leather. That's where it should have stayed. And this is another song that people want to credit Dave Mustaine for writing most of it. This might be another indication of why Dave was released from the band, because the song sucks. It's terrible. Doesn't belong on this album. It's bouncy, it's poppy. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the format of the aggression and the pounding brutal metal from the other songs. Jump in the Fire is terrible. I hate it. Get it off the album. So do you hate me by now? Remember, folks, okay, this is subjective. This is my opinions. You may think my opinion sucks. I may think your opinion and my opinion sucks. That's the way the internet goes. It's not a real place anyway, so it doesn't matter. But these are my thoughts, okay? What are your thoughts about my list? Let me know in the comments. Like this video if you enjoyed it. What's a song that you think is terrible, but it's on a great album? Doesn't have to be in strictly metal. It could be in any form of music. Let me know down there as well. I would also ask you, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Check out all my social media down in the description of this video, including my Twitch and my Patreon. Thank you all very much for stopping by, my friends. You stay decent out there and stay cool and keep those horns high.